Peter and Zach are not experts, and everything they say should be taken with at least 1 grain of salt. Please keep your ears engaged throughout the whole podcast to prevent rampant confusion. Now, brace your mind for impact. Love of the sun came back again to make it clear that he never said it would need him, and shame on a martyr claiming friends.
Hello everybody and welcome to Friends in Theory, your weekly dose of sciencey goodness applied directly to your ear. I'm 50% of your hosting team, Peter Batstone.
Yeah, I'm currently the other 50%, Zach Baru. We're here again. 3 weeks in a row. Pretty goddamn impressive if you ask me.
Yeah, you guys we're being really generous with this, to be honest. Zach.
Yeah.
What's a sound you haven't heard in a long time?
The Big Bang.
Yeah, a bit more recent than that. Think early, late 90s, early 2000s, maybe?
My dad's voice.
Wow, okay, no. You remember Concorde?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the Concorde. That's much more appropriate.
It was famously not very fuel efficient and very noisy. But NASA has decided that they want to do more testing, and they're bringing back supersonic planes, which is going to be really cool.
No way!
Yeah.
Supersonic planes are coming back.
Yeah, hopefully. They've been testing new designs in wind tunnels, and with swept wings, they're the ones that are like pushed back or pushed forward, so they're not, adjacent to the body of a plane. And they've got what are described as small dots called distributed roughness elements are put on the front of the wings, and that reduces the drag when they go supersonic.
That's pretty sweet, honestly. I'm excited for that, supersonic planes.
Yeah.
I don't really remember it all that well, really. I don't think I ever went on one.
Yeah, I'm pretty pissed I never got to fly on Concorde.
Yeah. Well, maybe Concorde 2. Or...
Yeah, I mean, they're not as big yet, but it's still really interesting if we can get a plane that can fly efficiently at, supersonic speed.
Yeah, like a passenger plane we're talking about.
Yeah, but these
like a fighter jet
little boy planes,
little boy planes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, what else has been going on this week? I've got one. Neanderthals. Do you know any? Or
I think so. I'm not going to name any names.
Oh, God. Yeah. So there's been some stuff about Neanderthals. There's been some studies, as there often are.
Are we de-extincting them?
No, hopefully not.
That's a bit... I don't think you can say that.
Well, they're not going to get offended. But anyway, someone called Laura...
Jesus. No, go ahead. Keep going.
Someone called... We're keeping this in. Someone called Laura Wayrick from the University of Adelaide in Australia. Or maybe it's Wayrich, I'm not really sure. Sorry, Laura.
Okay.
Has been following up on some studies that have been done on the mouth parts and jaw and mouth things of Neanderthal.
Mouth teeth.
Mouth things, yeah.
Yep.
They've been looking at something called the dental calculus, which is like a kind of hardened plaque that they sort of can find on teeth that they find in skulls and so on.
Okay, so I imagine that has to be like a pretty fresh thing.
Well, like certain elements can last for quite a long time. So they've been looking at a couple of different groups, and what's been interesting is that from the dental calculus, as it's called, they can say something about potentially the diets of different groups of Neanderthals. based on like the remains and like the DNA that they find on the teeth, more or less.
Oh wow!
So they looked at some a group or an individual rather, from Belgium, about 39,000 years old.
Wow!
And they found that.
Congratulations!
Yeah, happy birthday. They found that, like, based on what they found on its teeth, on the plaque, its diet consisted of woolly rhino, sheep, and also mushrooms, that sort of thing. Whereas they also looked at a couple of individuals from Spain about 48,000 years ago, and they found that almost everything they found was moss, bark, and mushrooms as well. So like seemingly no meat in the diet.
That sounds good to my taste buds.
Yeah, I mean it is a bit of a slight stretch, I guess, because you can't necessarily tell the whole diet from just what was there, because there might have just been something that wasn't there by chance.
Like moss really gets stuck in your teeth for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Shout out to all my moss eaters in the audience.
Yeah, that like Neanderthal diet that's been going around recently.
Yeah,
but yeah. So
they
could
giving
be
out
different
dietary advice. That's becoming our thing now almost.
Should we become like a health? I think that'd be bad, actually, for a health podcast to be called the Fat Cast.
Eat moss.
Yeah. So yeah, the diet could change based on the environment, like local adaptation and so on, which is common. But also one of the other things,
because Neanderthal wasn't farming yet by then, were they? Or even Homo sapien. Were we farming by then? Probably not. No way near the same level of, like structured farming.
Not that old.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they found on the teeth, which was really interesting, on one of the Spanish ones, which they thought was a teenage boy individual, was that he clearly had dental abscesses, and also they found the DNA of that sort of indicated that he had a gut parasite as well. So he was basically not having a good time at all. And they found on the dental calculus that the boy had eaten plants with anti-inflammatory and pain-killing properties.
Okay.
And they also found DNA from the penicillium fungus, which is pretty, maybe it was just by chance, but also maybe these Neanderthals knew which plants would help fight pain and inflammation and things like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't doubt it, to be honest, because that's basically how we've treated medicine forever. Is you find something that appears to work, and then you keep going back to it. So maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We may never know, because
it's pretty crazy. I mean, we're talking about 50,000 years ago, so that's pretty cool. Neanderthals, well done, guys. Sorry about the whole extinction thing.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Well, there is evidence to suggest that we share a good amount of Neanderthal DNA.
Yeah,
so
there's
bit
definitely
of Neanderthal
interbreeding.
In all of us, especially some of you.
Can we say that? Yeah, we'll be fine.
I think I can. I'm not sure you can.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
What else has been going on? Anyway?
So, they discovered that you can sometimes smell rain. When it's rain, the smell in the air changes.
I know what you mean.
They've done a bit more research with the sort of aerosols that are formed by raindrops hitting the soil. And in particular, they did a study that was pretty intensively based on soil bacteria. So this was at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and they had 6 samples of soil with 3 species of bacteria that were dyed fluorescent green. And they simulated rain and filmed it on a high-speed camera. And they found that about 0.01% of the bacteria that was on the surface of the soil was being lifted up into the air, sort of, not really vaporized, because, it's not literally getting destroyed, but brought up into the air in tiny water droplets, and these could be dispersed over incredibly short distances. And also the bacteria did not suffer from being made airborne. So there you go. Next time it's raining, go outside and smell the bacteria.
Wow. Great advice. This is a really good podcast for advice.
Yeah, well, next time you're eating moss, why don't you supplement it with some bacteria? Yeah.
Yeah, just sort of scrape your mouth along the ground.
Eat moss in the air. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't
go outside when it's raining. Go outside and just eat moss.
Yeah, well, they thought it would be interesting in terms of disease spreading in soil-borne pathogens, but they were moving like centimeters, which is actually pretty impressive for a bacteria, all things considered. But
yeah, I suppose so. Honestly,
yeah, it wasn't as helpful as they thought in that regard, but it's still interesting.
Yeah,
so
we're all about that.
We're going even smaller now because we're going to be talking about DNA samples.
Oh shoot!
So this is going to be like the heme topic again, where we have to try and keep it as accessible as possible without getting too bogged down in the jargon.
I mean, for my own understanding, to be honest, that would be great because.
Yeah, I mean,
Man.
I'm a little bit more well versed because of biotechnology, but
well, you know about the DNA and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I should know about the DNA.
You should,
but
you're gonna have to do data handling volume 3 again. So anyway, I'm sure we've all seen images of a Western blot. It kind of looks like a bunch of different thickness lines that have moved part way down. A blurry square. It's usually grey as well. It's usually grayscale. And this technique is essentially how we separate different sizes of proteins in a sample.
Right.
Well, and DNA samples as well, of course. And so the NMITT at the University of Tübingen have developed a new technique which combines the Western blot technique with a high processing technique called Luminex bead. And this process is called DigiWest, and instead of just working with like a handful of samples, it in effect duplicates it so you can work with multiple hundreds.
Right, so more input, better output, basically, is the...
Yeah, kind of. You're looking at like higher resolution, better results, faster processing, and you can also map multiple complex pathways. So that
is really good because like advances in how we can read and like identify patterns in DNA have gotten a lot quicker in recent years.
Yeah,
but there's still just so many complicated interactions that we can't like map them all out easily. Yeah. So that sounds good.
We mapped the human genome, like a couple of at least a decade ago. God, I can't quite remember. I should know. We should know this.
Yeah, why do we do a science podcast?
We're terrible. The point is, it happened, but there's still so much we don't know, and in particular, in terms of interactions between DNA and proteins.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Zach, do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know who else did something with DNA in what is possibly the worst segue between two sections ever?
Illuminate me.
Rosalind Franklin, who was famously kept from getting a Nobel Prize.
In poor old Rosalind.
This has become a very sad segue as well.
I mean, there's so this is because it's been International Women's Day this week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was on the 8th. It's on the 8th every year, as far as I'm aware. This isn't just a one-off thing.
I mean, frankly, I think they should probably have at least half of the days of the year, if I'm honest. Like, or maybe. I feel
maybe it's closer to like 48%, and then No, we're getting into like we're missing.
We've ruined the segue. We've ruined the segue.
I've ruined the segue, Zach. Excuse
I think maybe
me?
It was me. Sorry.
Okay, Zach. Where do you stand on women?
That's a tough question. No, of course. I think that that like recognizing the advances in science that have been made by women over the years is a really important thing, because there's been so many times when women have done amazing science, and it's just been completely swept under the carpet or attributed to someone else.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of areas of STEM are still very much a boys' club. And even if you don't believe that active sexism is involved, it's still, even if you're just going, imagine like a Protestant going to a Catholic, like an 80% Catholic church, you're still going to feel a bit out of place, and it's going to be more difficult to convince people to listen to your opinions.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's, in science, it's also demonstrable that women have been held back sometimes. I think we're getting better, but the point is,
I'd like to think so.
Not to discredit women scientists, but we all know Rosalind Franklin, Marie Curie, Jane Goodall, and even if women were just 1% of all scientists, if there were 100,000 male scientists, you'd still be looking at 100 female scientists. So we don't have time to cover every female scientist in history.
That's some pretty intense maths right there.
Thanks.
But yeah,
I need a break.
Yeah, there's lots. There's lots and lots of amazing women scientists. Obviously,
yeah.
Have you got any in particular?
I have. I thought I'd grab a list of some of the most interesting or like groundbreaking sort of discoveries by female scientists.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Okay, so Mildred Dresselhaus, who unfortunately passed away in February this year. Professor of physics and electrical engineering at MIT. She deciphered the electronic structure of graphite, the lowest energy solid state form of carbon. Which was a pretty big deal, because a lot of people had just been like, I can't be bothered to decipher the electronic structure of graphite.
Well, carbon chemistry is absolutely enormous. So like doing something like that is massive.
Yeah. She also did a lot of groundbreaking studies which helped discover buckyballs and carbon nanotubes, which are essentially hexagonal structures of carbon atoms that create a hollow shape within. And those are absolutely incredible, and they're both very, very important in nanotechnology. So now, moving on. Woman number 2. Sandra Fieber. She made important discoveries linking the brightness of galaxies to the speed of stars within them, which it took me a lot of time to get my head around this one, but basically... Yeah,
run that by me one more time.
Yeah. So basically, she linked the brightness of galaxies to the speed of the stars within them. So the
speed of the...
Yeah, like... I don't know, but their spin rate...
Yeah.
And that is something just absolutely like mind-blowing to me. And she went on to create the Faber-Jackson relation for elliptical galaxies, which is a standardized way of determining the brightness or the speed of a galaxy, an elliptical galaxy, from one of the other variables. And she's also had a lot of contributions to the design of telescopes in Hawaii, which I know doesn't sound very important, but we don't actually have that many telescopes.
No. Space telescopes are big, serious business.
Yeah. I don't have one, so they must be good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Jacqueline Barton, she was the professor of chemistry at the California Institute of Technology. Actually, she still might be. I don't think she's dead.
Right.
She discovered that...
We do our research.
Yeah. But we do enough research. She discovered that DNA conducts electric current, depending on the sort of organization or whether it's been disrupted by, say, certain chemicals or mutations.
Okay.
And her work with DNA didn't end there, even though that's arguably her most significant discovery. She also pioneered the application of transition metal complexes to probe recognition and reactions of double helical DNA. So you can sort of a new technique for working with the structure of DNA and how it reacts to things.
Right. So like the small scale makeup of it and
yeah, and then more metal complexes that recognize specific sites with sort of simulated rivaling DNA binding proteins.
That sounds pretty intense, honestly.
It is. This is getting pretty intense. The important thing is that it's all very important and helps us understand DNA, and it's helped lay the foundation for, new chemotherapeutics as well.
Yeah. Oh, great. Did she get any awards or recognition?
She got so many awards.
That's good.
Like at least 20. And I think they were all deserved. Like she's done an awful lot.
Yeah. It sounds it.
So here's lady number 4. Bessa Vugo, a German scientist who worked at the University of Cambridge. I think she died in 1991, which is a shame. But she discovered the 5 types of taste buds in our mouths. Which
right. What, like the sweet, sour, bitter, whatever it is? I can't remember the 5 types.
The outline does sour, spicy, strong, pleasant, and unpleasant. And she also did a lot of work on food shapes, apparently, and how people perceive foods based on the shape of them.
Okay, so I get what was that linking back into like evolutionary biology at all? Or?
Maybe she worked a lot with chimpanzees, but also human participants, and she basically laid out the foundation for the 5 senses as we know them today, which is something like you never really consider.
That's pretty fundamental. Yeah, I'd never really thought about that, to be honest.
As my limited research dug up, she played a major role in that and sort of laying out the foundation for how we interact with that. And also she discovered that perceived taste is driven by retronasal olfaction. really butchered that sentence, huh?
The perception of taste is based on smelling from the back of your nose? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like you pretty much got it. That's responsible for 68% of our taste sensation, is when you're chewing something up in your mouth and a bit of that sweet food aroma goes up into the back of your nose.
Right, so it doesn't just all come from your tongue and your cheeks and stuff.
No, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And it's stuff you just don't think about, like.
Even though it's like pretty goddamn fundamental to like human perception.
All right. I think we're now halfway through the list that I've comprised.
Nice.
It's not actually a very long list, but time constraints and whatnot. So
yeah, sure.
Lean Howe, she led a Harvard University team, and using Bose-Einstein condensate, managed to slow a beam of light to about 17 meters per second, and then eventually was able to stop it completely.
What? Wait. She slowed down light?
She stopped light.
What, like what Kylo Ren does in The Force Awakens?
Just like that.
What the hell?
No.
Like,
as in they
what?
managed to completely stop a molecule of light from moving. Well, a beam of light is the exact wording.
That kind of boggles my mind. So, how and what happened? What happened with this?
Well, a Bose-Einstein condensate is a super cold form of matter.
Right.
And I unfortunately I don't have the specs on hand right now.
Yeah,
but
no, that's fair.
All molecules sort of interact with the same rules of, energy and mass. Well, the right. ones, typical molecules. And light is sort of along those lines, except that light has no mass.
Yeah.
But somehow, I think it was like a really sort of dense net, and it was based around sodium atoms. They managed to essentially completely trap this beam of light and reduce its energy. Well, so yeah, the molecules within the beam of light are now just stop.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Not only that, she's already very impressive, but she's also done a lot of work in quantum computing, nanotechnology, and she does a lot of work with absolute zero. And yes, she has won a bunch of awards, which again, I think is fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. God.
So next up is Deborah Jin, who actually created the Bose-Einstein condensate.
Okay.
With a team at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And was able to use what here it's written as she used magnetic traps and lasers to create a similar state with fermions. Fermion gas was teased down to less than 1/3 of a millionth of a degree above absolute zero.
That is like pretty goddamn hard.
Yeah.
From what I know about absolute zero.
Absolute zero, just for the record for everyone, is the state at which there is no energy at all in the molecule. So it's something like close to minus 400 degrees centigrade, I think.
Is it even possible to reach it, or is it like one of those things where you can only get closer and closer to it?
Oh, maybe. Blimey. Well, there must be a known point of it, but the point is, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And
oh god,
ultimately very
this physics stuff.
Yeah,
just like I can't even.
We are a bit out of our depths on physics.
Yeah, we've been trying to stretch out because we always do biology, but like it's crazy.
You'll know we've hit a wall when we start talking about like holographic universe theory and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. So we're moving back into slightly lighter territory here. Adriana Uria, or is it Adriana Ocampo? Sorry, Ocampo Uria. Sorry, my bad.
Okay.
She's a planetary scientist. With NASA now. Was with the European Space Agency in 1989. While examining the satellite images of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, she discovered the. Oh, you're going to know how to pronounce this.
Was it the Chicxulub?
Yeah, she discovered that.
Chicxulub. Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that is the crater for the asteroid that landed 65 million years ago, which may have wiped out the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
definitely contributed to it.
Dino disaster crater that they found. What didn't they like? Was there some kind of digging for oil there, and then like they didn't hit what they thought they would hit, and then so some people started looking at it on satellite images.
I'm no expert. We'll have to ask AJ.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
I can't refute it, so it must be true.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because it's not something you can just see. It's not just like a crater. You're looking for little distinct marks that suggest that there was a crater there 65 million years ago.
Yeah, like if people listening are imagining it as like you look on a map and there's a big circle, that's not how it is at all. Because just layers and layers of rock have built up over the crater since it happened. But yeah, detecting something like that is pretty serious business, and also it changed the dinosaur extinction discussion massively when it was published, the Chicxulub crater stuff.
For particular crater stuff, yes. So finally,
the Chicxulub, yeah,
and this one I think is possibly my favorite, just because of how flashy and cool it is.
Oh man!
So Beatrice Schilling, 1909 to 1990,
that's a good name.
Was a prize-winning motorcycle racer and an aeronautical engineer. When she was 14, she got her first motorbike and was tinkering with it then. And then she won a bunch of awards as a bike racer, which is already pretty cool. And then
that's really cool.
And then in World War II, she managed to improve the Rolls-Royce engines with essentially one small metal ring to the point where our planes were actually able to, keep up with German planes.
Oh man!
Because so we didn't use a fuel injection system, which is used in like all cars and engines today. The Germans did. So all they'd have to do is do a maneuver that would induce like a high enough G-force, and then our plane engines would just flood and then shut off.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And so she designed this little ring. It just goes on the fuel lead, and all it does is restrict the maximum amount of fuel that came into the engine. And it seems so simple, but
no one thought
of that. So like you can't just go around and like play it down.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Beatrice Schilling,
and it
will
was
I
nicknamed
ever be as cool
Mrs.
as
Schilling's
this person?
Orifice, which
is God.
different time.
Yeah.
So that led our Spitfires and Hurricanes actually.
Congrats,
go toe to toe.
Beatrice Schilling.
Oh, but she wasn't done. Zach.
That is amazing.
She wasn't done.
Oh my
because
God.
after World War II, she became an award-winning car race driver.
What?
Because so that's pretty cool. What I really like about it as well is that she essentially saw a hobby she wanted to get into and then just did it, like almost against all the odds, and then became one of the most important people in the country just through doing things that she loved. And I think that's it's inspirational.
That is very
no matter how you
inspirational.
look at it.
Yeah.
So shout out to
I'd never heard
all women.
of Beatrice Schilling, which is just disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for illuminating me on all these great people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go and do some more great science, women of the world.
Yeah, women.
Weak and strong and wet and dry and
Hi everyone, thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying episode 3 of Friends and Theory. Just like to remind everyone that you can get in contact with us on Facebook at facebook.com/Friends and Theory. You can find us on Twitter at @the_fatcast with a capital F, T and C. You can find us on YouTube at Friends and Theory and on SoundCloud as Friends and Theory. Speaking of SoundCloud, we have decided to go ahead and keep using SoundCloud as a platform for uploading our episodes of the podcast. And also, our RSS feed is now working, so you can download the podcast and listen to it whenever and wherever on your mobile device of your choosing. Please do contact us if you have any feedback you'd like to give or any questions. You can really help us improve the podcast. And of course, if you'd like to, please rate the podcast, and if there's anyone else out there who might enjoy it, share it with them. Thanks again. Let's get on with it.
while you hear it, don't deny it. Leave if you can't stand the thought of
Right. Okay. So, Pete, let me ask you a question.
Okay, I shall.
How can you talk to aliens
Skype.
apart from Skype? Right, do you recognise this little tune? Okay.
That one.
Yeah. That tune.
Is that
That's how you
is that
talk to
Close
aliens.
Encounters?
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That's our third movie reference, so let's keep them coming.
Yeah.
Until we run out of movies.
Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind was not as good, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So in that movie, they talk to aliens using that little tune, do 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 do, which is semi-related to what I'm going to segue into now, which is
Wow.
music is
Zach,
is
do you know
a
what my
pretty
favourite song
interesting
is?
thing. What is your favourite song?
Smooth by Santana.
Man, it's a hot one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I listened to an interesting program this week called The Science of Music on Radio 4.
Okay.
And I wanted to relay some of the cool stuff that I heard on there and elsewhere when I was doing some reading afterwards.
Yeah. Go ahead. The platform is yours.
Music is a really interesting thing in human culture. And you might not think it immediately, but actually there's a strong scientific influence on music. So, first of all, one thing that I didn't really ever think of before is that music is, as far as we know, universal. There are no societies or cultures around the world that don't have music at all.
Oh man, I guess it would be kind of weird if you met someone who was like, "What is this sound?
Yeah,
what is this regular sound?"
Why did humans all over the world start making music? Way back, presumably.
I think it's because before Henry VIII was king, he used to travel around with a band playing music to people, and they were like, "Now this I can get into." Yeah. Or is it maybe before then?
Well, I mean, we can't really tell when music started, I guess, but there is a lot of interesting stuff about why humans identify with music so much, right? So, to go from the ground up, I suppose, like sound is basically just a series of vibrations that moves through the air and is detected by ears.
Yeah, that's the most common way we perceive it. But you can hear stuff underwater, but it sounds all garbled and nasty.
It doesn't have to be through air. Yeah. You've got sound waves. Basically, they move through any kind of substance, whether it be water or air or anything else.
Yeah,
by vibrating.
Like any wave, they move through particles and interact with them. Yeah.
And then we have special ears which are really good at detecting those vibrations, and then we send that information to our brain, and if the brain recognizes the pattern of the vibrations, we're like, oh, that person just said hello to me, or oh man, this is my favorite song by Carly Rae Jepsen, or whatever. So that's like the absolute basics of it. But then if you think about music as just a series of vibrations, how is it that just sort of regulations in a sonic environment can have such powerful effects on humans? Like, how can just a particular pattern of vibrations make you cry, or make you think of home, or make you happy?
Well, the processing element is the brain. So I'm imagining the waves of sound sync up or something with your brain waves. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe. Am I close?
So we interpret the patterns
Bullseye?
In different ways. Yeah. I mean,
sweet.
More or less.
More or less a bullseye. Just give it to him.
More or less is the catchphrase of this podcast anyway. So,
yeah, that's about right.
So there's this interaction between physics of the sound wave and the feelings, the emotional significance of that sound for the human. And throughout music's history, and throughout human history, we seek patterns in sound. Kids in the playground will just start singing little songs that have kind of regular rhythms, or they'll start clapping along with each other or whatever. And
you're not going to go down to the playground and hear some kid, performing Take 5, for example.
Yeah, no.
That's a music joke. If you got that,
yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, like forewarning, this is mostly a science podcast, and we are possibly going to be transitioning from the science to the mostly in this section, but it'll be fine. that fusion of physics and emotion is how sort of music culture has emerged, which is really interesting. But going back to some of the basics, like notes in music have a certain scientific and mathematical significance. For example,
nothing is magic or sacred in science.
No, that's kind of the opposite of what I mean, really. So, like an octave, for most people know what an octave is, I guess, even if they don't know the musical sort of notation or significance of it. It's just the same sound but higher or lower, right?
Yeah, it's like a scale, and then there are higher and lower versions of that scale.
So actually, I've got my keyboard here. Actually, so this is an octave,
right? God. Okay.
Right, that's an octave.
So that's the same note, but at a different pitch.
Yeah. What's interesting is that an octave has a mathematical relationship. The notes are numbered in an octave from the lower to the higher, right?
Right.
So to put it in a very simple context, if you have a bit of string, right? This was on the Science of Music show, so I'm just repeating it. I didn't make it up myself. I'm not that clever.
Should we just take the audio from that show, put it over this?
Let's just play that. Yeah. But if you take a string and hold it out a certain length and pluck it, say you make this sound, right?
Yeah.
That vibration creates a certain sound. An octave higher is the equivalent of if you cut that string down to exactly half its size and then plucked it again.
Weird.
So what this means in physical terms is that there's a ratio of 2-to-1 between octave notes. So the higher note, the sound waves are vibrating at twice the frequency of the lower note.
Okay.
So there's a very specific mathematical relationship between those notes. It's a frequency ratio of 2-to-1.
Okay, and how does that factor in with whether or not I cry listening to World War II marching music?
Well, yeah, me too.
I never said I did, Zach.
It's about the pattern. So, like, an octave relationship is found in pretty much every musical culture, because I guess it's the most basic ratio you could think of. It's half the length of the string. It's twice the frequency. But just playing octaves isn't really going to make you cry, is it? Like, exactly like you said. So we have other patterns and so on. So say you took your string, you plucked it, and then instead of cutting it down to half, you cut it to a third of its original length. If you plucked it again, you'd have what's called a perfect fifth, which is this.
So it's about the way it's vibrating creates a certain wave that's vibrating in the same way, and that's the sound.
Yeah, the frequency, or how fast the sound wave vibrates the air that it moves through, if you want, that determines the pitch of the note that you hear. So perfect fifth is a much more melodically pleasing sequence.
Are you going into the EastEnders theme?
So the series of perfect fifths, that's a ratio of 3-to-2.
Okay.
It's a third, and then those two relationships, the 2-to-1 and the 3-to-2, are two different relationships between the musical notes, and both have very different effects. Like, I'm assuming it's not just me, but this sounds a lot nicer than the octave does. So this is the perfect fifths. That sounds nicer than just like it's and I mean, neither are stunningly emotional because they're not compositions that some talented composer has made up. It's just literally the mathematical relationship between the notes.
Okay, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But where do we get why is this making me so angry?
Yeah. Well, there's a few potential reasons, and it comes down to that relationship between physics and feelings, or between the kinetic force and the emotions that you feel. So on the physics side of things, it could be said that this 2-to-1 ratio of the octave is something that humans naturally gravitate to because, and I apologize if this is incorrect, I'm pretty sure I researched this properly. The natural frequency of physical sounds creates noise in that frequency, and also it's the rate at which neurons fire.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So this gets a bit beyond my understanding, if I'm honest.
No.
So I don't want to go too deep into it because I might get it wrong.
But different frequencies is like what pitches you can hear, which is why dogs can hear the really loud noises that we can't hear, and we think it's really funny, but we can't hear that horrible, painful noise. Yeah.
So on the one side, there are physical properties which kind of represent those patterns, but also humans are like, man, that's a really specific mathematical physical sequence, but I think I could do better by myself. So we create our own scales and patterns. So the standard scaling system that's used in Western music is called equal temperament. It's almost, but not quite, based on those kind of neat Pythagorean intervals that we were just talking about, like the 2-1 and the 3-2.
We nearly did maths.
Yeah. Well, we did it, and then we were like, actually, I think it sounds better if we do it slightly differently. Which is interesting because that suggests, well, maybe it's not all the physical relationships and patterns. Humans just heard something that they liked better and tuned all of their instruments and their sort of music to that scale. And you see this differently in different musical cultures. They divide the octave differently based on their own perceptions and preferences.
Okay. It's getting pretty wild now.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. It's all a bit hypothetical, a bit inference based, but it is very interesting.
I guess there's no universal standard for music, is there?
No, I mean those ratios are a standard, but as we could tell, we don't use the ratios because we thought it sounded better if we did something else. So we almost use the ratios, but not quite, in the full equal temperament scale, which is what most of our instruments are tuned to.
And it's just because it resonates best with our brains.
Yeah, well, it's that power of patterns, and it's that kind of, was that change we made based on, was that difference what brought out such strong emotional reactions in humans? What I thought was, like, I didn't read this anywhere, this is my own thoughts, is that maybe if we did encounter aliens, right, and we wanted to speak to them through music, the physical ratios would be shared between different species from across the stars because that's a physical constant thing. But actually,
oh my god, what music would you play?
Yeah, the difference would be based on the emotional reaction and how different groups sort of changed those ratios to fit what they liked. But certainly, there's a lot of power, both physical and emotional, in patterns. One other interesting thing is that, based on the frequency of the sound, it causes different resonation of those sound waves through our bodies. And actually, the way we perceive sound isn't just based on what we hear through our ears, but also that resonation through things like the ventricular fluid, which is a fluid that supports our brain inside our skulls. So maybe there's also like a physical reaction and preference towards different frequencies, different pitches of sound.
It's weird. Brain's starting to hurt.
Yeah.
This is a bit crazy.
I'll bring it down a little bit here, into more sort of musical structure. Different powers of patterns is the really interesting thing that I was talking about before. So different people like different genres. What's your favorite genre of music, would you say?
Polka. I don't know. I listen to a pretty
What do you think?
Big variety.
Polka.
Yeah.
Okay. What if I told you were wrong?
That makes me feel bad. That's made me emotionally upset.
Yeah.
Your octaves didn't. That did.
Yeah.
What would you call that sound wave, Zach?
Basically, you could break it down to the fact that people just like different patterns more rather than genres of music. I mean, obviously you add on to that the fashion and culture surrounding different genres, but at its very core value, people just like different types of patterns. And it's a really interesting thing that people have preferences like this, because it doesn't have a direct translation into words or pictures. So if you think about, like, people might have a favorite color, or they might have a favorite poem or something like that, or whatever. They like the words and the pictures. But we don't have any sort of, apart from actually writing out the music in a system that we sort of worked out, music is a very abstract structure, and like the way the chords fit together. It's not like most people go, oh man, I really liked that C, G, F chord progression. They go, oh man, I really liked Let It Be by the Beatles or whatever. That's not the actual chord progression, by the way. I got it wrong.
Yeah, you don't want to start a fight with Paul McCartney.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But like with paintings or prose or a novel or whatever, we have expectations of what that pattern is going to be. And it's just like the twist in a novel or something that catches your eye in a painting. It's the manipulation of those patterns and occasionally the sort of breaking of those patterns that makes music very emotional or very poignant. Just like how a particularly beautifully written paragraph or
some garbage fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Can make you very upset.
Some of my Sonic OC fan fiction
was
will make you upset.
Upsetting.
But the disruption of the patterns in music is what makes them, or not necessarily always the disruptions, but the way a composition plays on those kind of tropes, if you want to think about it like that, and bends them, references them, or even breaks them, is what makes a music piece so interesting to us. We can't play any music on the podcast, but here's a couple of examples just to look up afterwards, maybe, or pause the video, pause the podcast and listen. The Goldberg Variations aria by Bach is a very, very specifically arranged piece that has many, many different kinds of patterns involved in the piece. It's something that fits the patterns that it uses very closely, and it sounds very nice. It's a great piece.
More important,
you'll be able to easily pick out the patterns. Yeah. Whereas something like Moonlight Sonata, which of course is just incredibly famous, plays on those expectations by the fact that as the melody continues, the way the chords change and also the way the notes are held at different times kind of catch you out. Even though you know it's coming, you're like, oh, that didn't sound quite right. Not in a bad way either. Like, it's interesting, and the way it changes those patterns is actually what makes the music so interesting and so emotionally charged, really.
I guess that feeds into the idea that now that they've got AI. Back to AI Watch. This is an AI alert, everyone. Yeah. We're talking about AI again.
We're both AI secretly.
Yeah. That's the magic of this. This is a real test.
Yeah.
They can predict like what music is going to be popular or not, and even generate their own music, which people
because
can
it's
enjoy.
based on patterns.
Yeah,
and just like in a story, how you have the sinister evil character and like the plucky best friend and the the underdog protagonist, those kinds of patterns that we see in stories have equivalents, if you like, in music. And when those tropes, when those patterns are played straight, or when they're changed, those are the things that we remember. It's really interesting, and it's sort of not quite science because there's so much human perception and emotion based in that. But there is a scientific basis for it, which is why I thought it was
physics.
Really interesting. Yeah, it's physics, but then humans were like, hold on, if I change the physics this way, it makes me want to cry.
Okay, so...
And isn't that what we're really trying to do?
So, in the sequel, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, what music would you like to see played to the aliens?
Just perfect fifths, obviously, all the way up.
Right, I was going to say Cypress Hill, Dr. Green Thumb, but that's fine. Okay, just
Baby Metal.
all the octaves.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for Baby Metal.
Oh no.
That we should send into space.
Send Baby Metal into space.
No, well, maybe. Anyway, so that's some cool stuff about music.
Yeah.
I had this one little anecdote that I thought was quite funny.
All right, bring it on.
Only tangentially related. So, Holst, there's the Planets, which is this suite of compositions, which is very famous, based on the planets.
Oh, yeah.
So Holst wrote the Planets, I think, around the 1915 sort of period, 1916. I think that's about right. Anyway, it was 15 years later, after Holst wrote the Planets, that Pluto was discovered.
Oh,
right?
No.
Holst died 4 years after Pluto was discovered. He didn't add Pluto on before he died.
Had loads of time. 4 years?
But someone else added Pluto on, actually.
Well, while he wasn't looking.
In the year 2000, someone added an addendum for Pluto.
That's a bold move.
Onto Holst the Planets. 6 years later, Pluto lost its status as a planet, which I thought was just kind of
when are they gonna
sad
add
for everyone, really.
All the planets on there. All the planets.
Trappist 1. That's
Trappist 1B. It's a great place to be. Come there now. It'll only take 60,000 years. Trappist B.
There you go. Put that on the planets.
just at the end.
So maybe in conclusion, alien communication, we just use physics and then we figure out how to bend that
Let's make
physics
them cry.
to what the aliens like. Yeah, so we can make the aliens cry.
Come back again to make things stand with no disrespect to the end. High and low and
Zach, I've got some good news. I think we've scored a 1-up in the constant war in man versus machine.
Okay.
And that's
we were doing pretty bad last week, honestly. So
yeah, and it looks like the AI have got music down as well. But there was a study conducted where observers were watching a robot select from two different LED lights. One of them was the right one, and this was randomly assigned each time. And the observers had a headset on, and this read their brain activity for what is called an error potential. So if the robot was reaching out for the wrong LED, the headset would detect this, and that would send a message to the robot saying, nope, that's the wrong light. And I don't feel like anything was learned. I feel like you were just messing with robots. 70% of the time, it would detect it and go for the other light. But it was just like, can you just imagine reaching up for it's like a 50-50 chance you'll get it right. And then you just get a message telling you wrong every now and then.
Between this and the fact that we just keep kicking robots over to see if they'll fall over.
I think they're really
when
going to come
comes,
for us. Yeah.
When the day comes, we'll deserve it, honestly. I'm going to join the robots.
Yeah. So they were saying, this could be useful for observers in like a completely automated production line. But it was still only 70% like success. And according to the study, error potentials are also like really, really easy to detect. So maybe the robot has already gone rogue just 30% of the time.
Oh, God.
And you'll tell him to pass you the salt and he'll pass you the pepper.
Yeah.
But again, it's an interesting application of, a brainwave detecting headset as well.
Yeah. Robot brains.
Zach.
There you have it.
Zach.
Yeah.
What day was it 24 days ago?
Boy. I don't know, tell me.
It was kissing day, Valentine's Day.
It was the kissing day.
You want to tell me about some scientific, historical kissing?
It was like 3 days before the first Friends in Theory, which...
No, that's not important.
So yeah, a bit of a throwback to the first time.
Welcome to Throwback Friday. Sorry, Saturday. Yeah. This isn't dated. Let's keep going.
We got some more kissing news this week, and it's going also throwing back, a double throwback, because I'm also talking about Neanderthals again. The Neanderthals. Basically, in the same sort of series of studies where they were poking about inside Neanderthal mouths,
they found
some evidence.
Juicy lips.
Yeah, they had a little smooch. There was some evidence. There was some evidence that Homo sapiens, modern humans, of course, and Homo neanderthalis may have kissed. Based on evidence from shared oral bacteria. So
we knew that there was interbreeding, but kissing is intimacy. Kissing is sharing.
There's an oral bacteria called let me get this right, Methanobrevibacter oralis.
Nice.
And we can trace descent from a common ancestor about 110 to 140,000 years ago, which is when we know Neanderthals and Homo sapiens began to interbreed.
Is it the golden age of kissing?
Yeah. It's the golden age of interspecies sex, I guess. But
let's leave it there.
Like, if the implication is that they were doing the kissing that long ago, and there was that's a very intimate thing, and it doesn't have any direct correlation to making the babies. Yeah, I mean, maybe there was some nice romances going on between.
Maybe a Romeo and Juliet situation going on here.
Yeah. I would like to see the Neanderthal reconstruction of Romeo and Juliet.
But it's just some of them are hairy and bigger, and the others are not so hairy and small, but have spears.
Yeah.
And then it ends with all the Montagues dying forever.
Love's fair wings
wins war,
lifted me over this high mammoth wall. Yeah, that's not the line. I can't quote Romeo and Juliet. Jesus, this isn't an art. This isn't
a Romeo and Juliet's podcast. What are you idiots? Get out of here!
God. So yeah, there you go. The kissing of two species happened sometime in the past, and
Zach.
Yeah.
Zach.
That's cool.
Zach.
Yep.
Remember last week when I was talking about luminescent liquid?
Oh yeah, monster raves or whatever.
Monster raves in space. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They're about to get a lot more colourful.
Oh man!
Apparently, there's color changing glass, and before now, it essentially was you have this clear glass, and then you put an electrical charge through it, and it becomes a color. But now, at Rice University, they've got, it's called perylene, and it's hydrocarbon glass, and there are molecules sandwiched in between it, and they can be not only turned on and off, but now they have 2 settings depending on whether it's a positive or negative charge. So you can have normal windows, and then you can have red windows when you're listening to angry music, and blue music when you're listening to sad music.
Yeah. Different patterns in the brain.
Yeah, but I wonder if you could...
Yeah.
I cry every
wait.
time.
I'm going to get it on my car.
That's a shout, actually. No, I'm really into...
And then every time the song changes, I'll almost crash because the colour of the windows
suddenly can't see any stop signs.
Yeah.
And then everything's in 3D. Who knows? Maybe you'll be able to get like it'll be like toggleable stained glass windows if you can get like a pattern going. That would be dope.
Oh, churches are going to be amazing.
Yeah, if we have any in the future. Maybe like.
Well, that was an unexpectedly grim note.
Yeah, sorry. Well, it's not like anyone's building churches anymore, though, right?
I think some people are, like Mormons.
Okay, no. Yeah, but with stained glass windows and stuff.
Nah, Mormons suck, honestly.
Oh my God.
Sorry, any Mormons who listen to this.
We've lost all our
Mormons suck
fans.
Almost as much as Neanderthals. We've lost all of our Neanderthal and Mormon fan base. So.
Yeah, and everyone who ever listened or watched a performance of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Right.
There was one other thing that I read this week.
Yeah.
Let me just read you the headline real quick from New Scientist. Dogs use deception to get what they want from humans. Open brackets, a sausage, close bracket. So yeah, I mean, you think
brackets,
dogs man best friend, dogs man and woman's best friend. They have been lying to us in order to get sausages. Honestly,
just for one, actually.
Yeah. Basically, some people did some tests on some dogs. Man, this is a good science podcast. And the dogs figured out the optimal behavior to pass this test and get a sausage. What they did was they presented a dog with 2 potential partners for this test, and in front of them were 3 boxes. And what the dogs had to do was lead one of the partners to one of the boxes and lead the other partner to one of the other boxes. I messed that up a little bit, but basically, yeah.
Okay.
So one of the human partners, would always keep whatever was in the box, and the other one would always give whatever was in the box to the dog. And in the 3 boxes, one of the boxes had a sausage in it, one of them had a biscuit in it, and one of them had nothing in it, right? And what the dogs ended up doing a lot of the time, or sort of statistically significant amount of the time, is they would lead the competitive partner, the one who didn't give the dog anything, to the empty box, so that human would get nothing. And then they would lead the other partner, the one who would give the dog the thing, to the box with the sausage in it, so the dog would get the sausage.
That doesn't actually seem like much deception is being used. I think that article should just be called "Dogs Aren't Idiots."
But like, yeah, I mean,
brackets a sausage.
There's these 2 people there. If you ask your dog, "Hey, doggo, why don't you go lead me to a box that has some sweet food in it that I can eat?" He will literally leave you to your death by starvation, while he goes to someone else who will give him lots of sausages.
That tasty sausage.
Yeah.
Zach, I've just noticed, I'm looking at the flow sheet, and the URL for the robot mistake exercise literally at the end of it, it has content equals, and then in block caps, one word, robot mistakes.
Yeah. Now, was that written by the humans or the robots? That's the real thing.
Oh man.
So, have we got any finishing words?
I do. Zach.
Let's hear them.
Older people are just as good at judging music as younger adults, okay?
Wow. I mean, do we need to say anything else?
Yes. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Once again, you made it to the end. You're great.
You are very good. Something tells me this episode is going to be longer than the other two, but we hope you enjoyed it nonetheless.
It's fine.
I've been Peter Batstone.
I've been Zach Baru.
The music you've heard throughout the podcast is the song "And" from the album Good and Evil by Tally Hall. You should definitely check it out. And we need a closing message, honestly.
Yeah, we don't have like a catchphrase. Comment with what our catchphrase for the end of the podcast should be.
Catch ya on the flip side, my sausages.
Kill me.
Big bad Betty of the apocalypse. She opens her lips and it goes like this.